Right, that's Season 2 done then. Let's take a look at the broad strokes and see how things stand. Voyager's continued its journey towards the Alpha Quadrant. There have been no significant shortcuts or boosts, but we have stopped at basically every fucking planet on the way to say hi to the locals. We've discovered humans taken from Earth and aliens who've been to Earth, both of which seem terribly unlikely, but maybe our moon has a really good duty-free shop or something. We've inserted ourselves into conflicts, we've broken the laws of physics, and I've lost count of the times we've taken a big shit on the Prime Directive. We've also had a little bit more backstory for repeating guest stars, the Kazon and the Vidians, the result being we now know they should both be pitied as victims rather than hated as enemies. This didn't stop us killing a shitload of them though. Oh, and Seska's been all up in our shit too. I still think she'd have made a better recurring nemesis than the Kazon. Let's take a look at how the crew have changed. Janeway has continued to be a fair and just and steadfast captain, as long as you ignore the murders. Disappointingly, there hasn't been a whole lot of fleshing out her character this season, besides some romantic involvements, namely Lord Stickass, the holodeck character, and that time she and Chakotay totally banged. Freeing her from the commitment to her partner back on Earth gives us more options story-wise, leaving her single and ready to mingle in the Delta Quadrangle, but this does feel at odds with the level of loyalty she shows to those around her. Except Tuvok's, obviously. Incidentally, it's a little odd that we've not had an episode on her backstory and motivations yet, but we've got 5 more seasons, so I guess we'll wait and see. Chakotay's a difficult one to judge. He got a wedge of backstory in Tattoo, and I'd have loved a greater exploration of his defining choice, namely, the adoption of his father's beliefs and joining the Marquis to continue his father's fight after he was killed. Unfortunately, other than that, his participation has been purely as a foil to Seska and to continue the stereotypes. He remains the show's second most underused character. Tuvok got a couple of episodes this season, Innocence to show his compassion in an effort to make him relatable, as well as one of this season's highlights, Meld. Tim Russ got a chance to show his acting chops in that one, but there have been other, more subtle moments to make Tuvok endearing, usually from his unwavering loyalty to Janeway. The episode widely considered to be an absolute stinker, Threshold, also gave us a longer look into the formative events of perpetual bellend Tom Paris. It's suggested here that the cocky arrogance and dismissive air of aloofness is a mask he wears to hide his insecurity, that he's always struggled against the weight of expectation placed upon him by a domineering father. The following episodes provided the show an opportunity to see his facade cracking under the strain of that emotional weight, an opportunity it wastes by using it to provide a cover story for him being a spy. Everything he said when leaving the ship, the addressing of his own very real character flaws, is dismissed as a result, rather than giving him the chance to grow from it. And I find myself in the uncomfortable position of believing the writers have done my boy wrong. Some humility and acceptance from Paris could have made him a genuinely relatable character. Instead, he's still being written as a dick, and of all the character development this season, I'm left feeling that Paris is the one who got the most fucked. In the one episode where we truly focused on Kim, we discovered he was willing to risk destroying all of history in the entire universe on the roll of a dice because he thought he was right. I guess he stood up to Tuvok for abandoning Janeway and Chakotay, but I'm not giving him points for that when he said nothing about murdering Tuvoks. Other than that, he's been, well, present, I guess. If any of his scenes from other episodes had been assigned to an unnamed ensign, would we really have noticed? He remains the most underutilized character as he was in Season 1, and I know that should bother me, but again, the writers just haven't given me anything to root for. The episodes focusing on B'Elanna would leave us marvelling at her prodigious skill to create, if she didn't end up killing them afterwards, as she does in both Prototype and Dreadnought. I'd like to believe that's an intentionally thematic touch, a nod to the duality of her nature, science and violence in a single package, but I suspect that's probably coincidence rather than intent. Other than that, she's been there to tell Chakotay when he's being manipulated by Seska, and to provide the magical science solution when needed in a story. Such is the lot of a chief engineer, I suppose. If we ignore the episode projections, which I started doing while I was still watching it if I'm honest, the only other Doctor-focused episode has been about his first proper romantic involvement, and his clumsy fumblings related to that, verbal or otherwise. It occurs to me that watching his growth through what is essentially a form of adolescence may be what endears him to so many people. He was also the only one to have a spine with regards to Tuvix, and for that alone, we stan the Doctor. Coldfire gave us some interesting insights into Kaz and the potential for psychic fuckery she holds within her. A shame that any mention of her mental abilities essentially dropped off a cliff afterwards. Otherwise, she's remained the moral compass of the ship, well, mostly, and the sounding board for the Doc's growth. And she's still with Neelix for some damn reason. Nope, nothing. No Jutrell moments, no glimpses of depth, just carried on being the wacky one when he wasn't busy being a jealous, possessive tit. Oh, I guess he did do the journalism thing, which fucked up more than it fixed, and he hit Traitor Guy with a space spanner, then watched the guy fall to his death. I wonder if he took credit for that. And that's where we stand. In the Season 1 summary, I said the overarching theme was one of missed opportunities, and I suspect that's going to be a constant given the closed episodic nature, but even so, we're still seeing the show start to find its feet. Whilst we've certainly had some stinkers, there have also been episodes here that can go toe-to-toe with anything the other old Trek shows can provide. And there have been some narrative themes that I've actively applauded, such as Voyager having a generally negative reputation amongst the different species they meet. We have some good ideas here, and the show occasionally goes in directions I hadn't expected. It's nice to see a surprise here and there. With luck, those surprises continue into Season 3. I hope you'll join me in discovering what new species the Voyager crew are going to be killing, and on a personal note, thank you to everybody that's tagged along so far. I started these as a giggle to keep my mind ticking over, and I hadn't expected the reception they've had. In truth, those of you offering kind words and discussion on the topics raised have done much to restore my faith in humanity after a less than stellar year for me. Again, thank you. End of summary.